Welcome to Let's Build a Willys Jeep. Today's video I'm going to show you how to install your radiator into your 1947 CJ2A Willys Jeep with your upper and lower radiator hoses and your radiator to corral support rod, and this will be installed directly into the front of your Jeep on these two metal supports here that attach directly to your frame. I'm now going to go over how we're going to install a radiator to the frame of our Jeep, and there are two studs that will connect directly to the frame, and there are four components on each of these studs. The four components are: you have your welt. This right here will insulate your radiator from the frame. Then you have your washer, lock washer, and then your 1/2-inch nut, and this will secure directly to the frame on our Jeep. These two components are your radiator hoses, and this right here, this curved one, is your lower radiator hose, and it'll connect to the lower section of your radiator, or coming out of this pipe right here on the radiator, while this right here is your top radiator hose, and it will connect directly to the top of your radiator on this hose right here. Now this right here is your radiator to corral support rod, and on both sides there are various washers, lock washers, and nuts. And start with this side, or going towards your left. This right here is your fine thread side. This is your fine thread 5/16, and you have your nut, washer, lock washer, and our nut. This side will secure directly to the top of your radiator. Well, this side right here is your 3/8 coarse thread side. This side has your washer, lock washer, and your coarse thread nut. The first step to a radiator installation is we have to install the welt on each of the holes on the frame on both sides before we put the radiator on top. Now it is time to install our radiator into the engine compartment. We'll have to make sure we have our inlet and outlet hoses facing towards the engine, and our studs will just face downwards on top of our welts right through the frame, as so, just pushing it on and going through the holes. Now with the radiator pushed through the holes on our frame, we can go underneath here, and we'll have to secure our radiator to the frame, and we'll secure it to these studs using our washer, lock washer, and nut on this stud and the stud back in here. Now install your washer, lock washer, and nut to the stud and hand tighten for now. Repeat the same step on the other stud. With both our nuts loosely tightened for now, we can move up to the top of our radiator so we can get the radiator to corral installed, and that will be installed on your upper hole right here. Looking from the top now, this is a hole that we'll use to connect our support rod. It'll connect right to our radiator, and then it'll run all the way the distance, all the way back to the tub, and it'll go through this hole right here on the corral of your Jeep. Looking at a side view, you can see how your support rod is actually very critical, as it keeps your radiator from rocking back and forth when you're driving, as it connects your radiator directly to your tub. To install your support rod, I would put your hooked end through your corral first, as so. And now we will lean back our radiator so we can push it through the hole on our radiator. Now install your washer, lock washer, and nut to your supporting rod, and we'll just hand tight our nut for now until we get the other side set. The other side follows as so with your washer, lock washer, and your nut. Now we have everything loosely tightened. Now we can tighten our radiator to the frame and our support rod to the radiator and to the corral. Before we tighten this nut, we want to make sure we have our welting orientated in this direction or lengthwise with the radiator on both of your studs. Using a socket, tighten your nut down until your welting just starts to compress and then stop. Using 2 wrenches, tighten down your supporting rod to your radiator. Lastly, tighten up this nut using your ratchet and just go until it's hand tight. The final step to our radiator installations, we have to install our radiator hoses. This right here is your upper radiator hose and this is your lower radiator hose. And they'll be installed as so. Your upper radiator hose will be installed at the top of your radiator coming out of this pipe, run the distance this way, and connect to your thermostat housing and clamp on here. While your bottom radiator hose has a curve in it, and this will be installed on the bottom of your radiator coming out of the pipe down here. It'll curve up and run the distance this way and connect and clamp on to your water pump. I would highly suggest that you guys just use one rubber hose to connect the distance from your radiator to your engine. As back in the day, there was your rubber hose, a piece of metal, and then another rubber hose. So it actually was 4 connections. There was a connection here, connection here, connection here, and a connection here. Now, our method is that we just run one pipe. And this actually is better because there's only 2 points that it can possibly leak from. But I'd also use these more modern radiator hose clamps with a nut on them, so you can put lots of pressure on your radiator hose and really clamp it closed so they won't leak. As the ones you can get for your Willys Jeep are not as strong as these ones and they do leak. Now it's time to install our upper radiator hose. You want to make sure you have your clamps pre-installed to your hose. And first we will put on our hose to our thermostat housing. Just push it on and give it a quick wiggle, and that should set it on. And then we will bend the hose and we will put it onto our radiator as so, giving it a quick wiggle, and that will set it on to our radiator. Once you got your upper radiator installed, I would push your radiator hose onto the pipes a suitable amount so your clamp will be putting pressure on your rubber hose and the pipe on both the radiator side and your thermostat housing side. I would adjust your clamps so they look the same, so it makes it look good. Now it is time to install your lower radiator hose, and you want the longer part to be facing towards your radiator, and the smaller part attaches to your water pump, and it will just installed as so, sliding it on to the bottom portion on your radiator, just wiggling it on. And now you have to just bend your pipe and push it on to your water pump, and it'll just kind of push on and wiggle it on. And now we have to tighten our clamps up on the top and the bottom. Once you got your lower radiator hose installed, I would adjust your clamps, have this clamp with your nut facing upwards. And down here, it's very important that we have our nut facing downwards here because we don't want our fan blade to hit our clamp down here. It's important that we tighten all of our clamps to ensure that our radiator fluid does not leak from our hoses on all 4 connections on your upper and your lower hose. And you want to tighten it till your rubber starts to compress, and you want to make sure that will give a nice tight seal around your hose to your pipe. And that is how you install your radiator into your 1947 CJ2A Willys Jeep on your L134 Go Devil engine. Thanks for watching and subscribe.